We come to the rest of Obama's birth story, the rest of his development, and why it's important. The question is, first, where was he born? And I did not start out as a birther. As my earlier profile shows, I did not raise the question. It dawned on me a couple of years ago, well, let me ask Obama's superintelligence and see what he's telling us between the lines. So the real question is Obama, unconsciously, is his superintelligence a birther? In other words, is he telling us he was born outside the United States? Indeed he does. He tells us he was born in Kenya. I'm going to give you a very brief outlook at that now. But before we get there, let's understand, he's going to tell us he was born in Kenya. But why is this important? Because if he is run as an illegal president, he's attacked the Constitution. And this is really all about his anger, as he later followed his mentor, Saul Alinsky, that doing something in a deceitful way. So the question is, why would he run as an illegal president if he is one? The answer is he's angry. He's already told us that. So now let's come back. Let's come back to the question of was he born in Kenya? A very brief look. If you look at his inauguration speech and other references, but he particularly tells stories and images of the foreigner coming to America, the foreigner packing up bags and coming across ocean to settle in America, slaves coming from Africa, people settling the West, strangers coming to America. And so he tells two key stories about a Kenyan birth in his inauguration speech, indirectly alluding to himself. There'll be more evidence later, but he unconsciously is telling us, yes, I was born in Kenya. Now let's get to the rest of the birth story from his birth on, and we'll better understand his anger and how it worked out. His mother decided to keep the pregnancy. At 3 months of age, 3 months pregnant, she is at that point supposedly married to Barack Obama Sr., who declares he's the father. He goes to the immigration official and says, I'm married, and I've married Ann Dunham, have a child on the way. Okay, he took a risk doing that. He was already in trouble with the immigration officials as a possible bigamist, but it was a risk. Now, why did he take the risk? The mother had leverage over him. All she had to do was to go to immigration and say, this man has gotten me pregnant, and he would have been home to Africa. The school would have immediately discharged him. So she had leverage over him. And now, it looks like if one other possibility, his mother was pregnant by another black man, Frank Marshall Davis, that we'll get into. I think somewhere she didn't really know who the father was, that she had slept with both men, knew she was having a black child. So she has this agreed upon marriage, which probably never took place, but agreed upon marriage. She wanted a father for her child. She wanted to look like she was married. And I think somewhere along the way that she decided she wanted to go to Africa and started idealizing it, and saw Obama Sr. had a great future down there at the time. And the mother wanted to go to Africa and take her child there and make a career out of it. And I think she had this romantic notion of a Kenyan birth. So I think Obama Sr. went along with it and bought into it. His third wife was white, and he brought her to Africa. So his pattern was to bring the white woman to Africa, see what I've conquered. So I think the child was born in Africa, born in Kenya. Now, what happened down there is a key story the grandmother told the mother that was related in Obama's book. The grandmother was afraid. You'll go down there in Africa and you'll live with your child, and the Mau tribe will kill you, and they'll keep Obama Jr. there. This was the grandmother's fear. She's a hypothetical situation looking down the road, but there's the fear. A child custody situation comes up. I think it's also a picture of an explosion in Africa. I think they got down there in Kenya. The father probably resorted to his abusive ways as he abused his Kenyan wife and his third wife there. And I think something happens, something explosive. Ann Dunham comes back, and she realizes she doesn't have child custody rights. Obama is now a Kenyan citizen, and she doesn't have citizenship rights, American citizenship rights. I think she comes back, she manipulates, gets a certificate of live birth, which was easy to get, and I think manipulatively gets announcements in the newspaper, and then heads to Seattle 4 weeks later to get away from Obama, it appears. She stayed in Seattle. Obama Jr. is now 4 weeks old. She moves to Seattle, stays there for a year and a half after Obama Sr. stays in Honolulu, and then he goes to Harvard to graduate school. Mother waits until the coast is clear, and then she comes back to Honolulu to settle for her last years in school, saying she wanted to be there all along. Why? I think the child custody issue was in the back of her mind. She didn't want him to know his father. She wanted to get away from him. She didn't want to have any contact with him. Maybe afraid as a teen he would want to go to Africa. Obama Jr. would want to go to Africa. Whatever the case, Mother settled in Seattle. At this point, Obama Sr. has little contact with the father, has little contact with the son, and the next contact is face-to-face is at age 10, and Obama Sr. comes to Honolulu to visit his son. And one thing to mention, this whole story was kept from Obama. He was told his father left at 2. Not even at 9 months when the father really left to go to Harvard. He could have told that. He could have been told that. Why did they make up the myth that Obama Sr. left at 2 years? I don't think they wanted Obama Jr. to have any knowledge of travel back and forth to Seattle, certainly have no hints of a Kenyan birth. To know early in his life, have no idea that he was born in Kenya. I think they wanted all that kept secret, so they taught him to deceive and to live with this myth that his father was there until he was 2. Well, his father finally reconnects with him at 10. His father comes in. There's a question about his father really caring, really being his father. His father came in at 10, and he didn't come in to get him to get Obama in school, as some people hypothesize. Obama was already in this prep school. But he came, and while he was there, he disciplined his son and got into an argument with his in-laws about disciplining his son, but he cared enough to discipline his son. So Obama Sr. was nobody's gopher. He was too imperial. He wasn't going to accept a bribe to pretend he was Obama's father. I think he thought he was Obama's father. He wouldn't have gone to Kenya for that birth. Mother wouldn't have gone to Kenya for that birth unless she was trying to work out something with Obama Sr. So everything points toward, at least in Obama Sr.'s mind and Obama Jr.'s mind for a long time, that Obama Sr. was his true father. Okay, now we come to Frank Marshall Davis at 15, who's been hypothesized as Obama's real father. Frank Marshall Davis was a black, radical, communist, anti-American, anti-white, very brilliant guy, drinking buddy of the grandfather. He had also taken nude photos of Obama's mother when she was around 18, right around the time that she was pregnant. Those were sold to men's magazines. Those are out there. That clearly happened. So it implies he certainly slept with her, and there was a possibility he was the father. So we come back now. This is a possibility, but Obama goes over there to Frank Marshall Davis's house several times with his grandfather, and then at 15 he goes over there by himself. And one night he's talking to him, and between the lines Frank Marshall Davis tells him, "Oh, by the way, I disgraced your mother. I slept with her. I disgraced her. It was a racial thing, as the white men used to disgrace our black women." And this is between the lines, and he says, "And oh, by the way, I also may be your father." Well, if you go to this point in Obama's book, Dreams from My Father, he was utterly shocked. His head started spinning. He thought the floor was going to fall out from underneath him. He heard the message, the encoded message, the story between the lines, and he was shocked. Now, if you fast forward, you got tremendous humiliation by his second type father figure, Frank Marshall Davis. Now, fast forward to 17, Obama wrote 2 poems in college that he presented at around age 19. The first one was Pop, and that was clearly written by Frank Marshall Davis. It was a much more sophisticated poem than Obama was capable of writing as a literary expert analyzed. But that poem was thought to represent Frank Marshall Davis was confessing he was his father, and at one point Obama gets up and gives him a hug. Really, there are all kinds of sexual abuse images that are much stronger. The stain on his shorts matched the stain on Obama's shorts. There were all kinds of sexual images. Therapists have noted this is more about sexual abuse. So Obama writes the poem Underground And it's about apes wrestling underwater, suggesting an unconscious hidden secret. And apes wrestling underwater, their skin's glistening, and they're eating figs together. This very sexual imagery. Obama seems to be answering, yes, Frank Marshall Davis did abuse me, and I'm putting these poems out there so the public can see, so that maybe I can understand what this man did to me. Deep down, Obama, humiliation upon humiliation. Now imagine Frank Marshall Davis is humiliated in multiple ways, and now we begin to get a sense when Obama talks about from humiliation to powerlessness to untrammeled fury. This man had more humiliation than we can imagine. And that's the story he's telling us. And later on, he is set up in college. He's set up in college to become a radical. He is looking for a Saul Alinsky. He is looking for a Jeremiah Wright later. He's looking for people who are angry at America that express his anger. And they train him, but he was really looking for them unconsciously to get out his anger. So it was a perfect fit. But this is what Obama is about. He's trying to tell us, wounded and angry, all as a result of being humiliated.